Marketer of the Day, episode 614, Openless Apps. Educate, nurture, follow up your customers with Peter Lisoskie.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We have a return guest, Peter Lisoskie, and you can find Peter's last appearance just a few months ago at marketeroftheday.com/553. And Peter's back to tell us about Openless Apps. Now, Openless Apps are a new category of software that replaces websites, it replaces phone apps, chatbots, email marketing. There are no more confusing websites. There are no phone apps to download, which sounds pretty exciting. So we're going to hear all about these Openless apps and what the heck they are and how the heck we can make more money with our businesses and get more attention and more traffic. So, Peter, glad to be talking to you again.
Yeah, it's great to be talking with you again, Robert. Thanks for having me back on the show. I appreciate that.
Heck yeah, well, I appreciate you taking time and hopping back on. So, Openless apps, what are these things?
Well, in the simplest sense, Openless apps means there is no downloading. So you guys that have done phone apps, you go to your iTunes or Google Play Store, you have to go through a whole download process, which creates all kinds of friction. They have their part web app, part chatbot with artificial intelligence. So they do messaging, which is what we need to do. And then they're also have a database back end. Last time, Robert, when I was talking to your listeners, we were talking all about chatbots. And there's been some, in my opinion, there's been some changes and things I've noticed about chatbots that while chat and messaging is important, I talk, when I keynote around the country, chatbots are kind of like a one-legged dog running. They're limited in what they can really, really do. And so hence why we went to Openless Apps, because we wanted to not only have something that was almost frictionless, but we also wanted to have something that worked on a smartphone, because everybody's on these things, Robert. They're living on them. They're like their third arm. And so our Openless app has all the functionality that a smartphone has, like geolocation, like payment transactions, push notifications, all those things that are far superior to email marketing. And we have all the stats to show that. But they're also a single hub. They're engaging. We're still using the animated characters, but it's just a place for people to come for, lead generation, lead nurturing, and lead conversion. From a marketing standpoint, they can do on-demand video trainings. They can do all kinds of things that you just can't do with some of the other tools that you have out there, like websites and like phone apps and like chatbots. And those things are just not working the way they used to.
Okay, so everyone's using apps, so why fight it? Why not go to where people are at? And yeah, I think for the longest time, that whole idea of the mobile responsive websites, those first couple of years when you didn't really have to do it, I sort of resisted it. And I remember back in the time when even Facebook itself wasn't mobile responsive, and it was easier to use Facebook on a computer than on a phone. And nowadays, you'd be crazy to have to not be considering these phones and these apps. And I think when it really clicked with me was maybe a couple of years ago. I bought a course on Udemy, right? Where you can kind of buy a little mini course for $10, $20 for pretty much anything. And I was watching a video on my computer, and then I had to go somewhere, so I hopped in the car, I went to the Udemy app, hit the button on the phone, and then it picked off right where the computer left off. I didn't have to navigate. I didn't have to say, oh, well, let me log in and let me find video 2. It was just like seamless. It was like right where it left off, the phone kind of kept going. And that's when it began to click to me. It's like, okay, so now I don't even have to really think about, am I doing it on the computer or on the phone? It just kind of works. And that was when I started to realize, okay, well, we need to be paying attention to this phone stuff. And we need to maybe even make things where some people aren't even going to use the computer, right? Some people are going to be 100% on the phone. And in a lot of cases, sitting and watching and playing a video is even easier on the phone and more convenient because you're not stuck at the computer. So that's when I began to realize, some people are only on the phone or only on some app. And there's been many times when, even when I have to go to, say, like a browser and load something, it's way more convenient to just open it up and use the app. So when you're making these Openless apps, can you give us an idea of one of one of the apps that you have, or maybe a really popular one for this idea to really stick in our heads here?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. And just to add a little bit to what you're saying, the Openless apps, by the way, guys, they're device independent, so they're responsive like what like what Robert was talking about. So they show up well on a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or a smartphone. But like what Robert was mentioning, the world is, and you guys are all, I talk about this all the time when I do my talks, the world is on smartphones. So it has to be device independent. It doesn't matter what screen you're in, but you're in the Openless app. So to give you an example, Robert, we work with coaches and speakers, and I do the same thing. So do you have a lot of listeners that are in the kind of the coaching, speaking, authoring area?
A good amount, yeah.
Okay, so let's bring that up. That's a good example if a lot of your listeners are like that. So we have developed, the other thing we've developed is what we call a new QR code technology. Everybody knows about QR codes. They've been around for a long time, but the problem with them was you had to download an app to use the QR code. Well, not anymore. You also know about text message marketing. Text message marketing is great. It gets 90 to 95% open rates. We do too with our QR code technology, and I'll get into that here in the coaching speaking aspect. But think about it this way. This is all about 24/7 instant, anytime, anywhere, like what Robert was talking about. And with text message marketing, we always look at things in terms of friction, the number of steps that you have to go through to do something. The reason why is because the largest data collector on the planet, Google, came out with a very massive study that they did. And what they had revealed in the study is that every step a user has to take now, 20% of the people drop out. And that's if they're interested. So if you look at, let's go to text message marketing. Well, if you guys know about that, first of all, you got to type in the short code. That's step number one. Step number two is you got to type in the keyword. Step number three is you got to go over to your text inbox. Step number four, you got to tap on the link. That's 4 steps of friction. Now, going over to this application idea with coaches and speakers, we have a QR code technology. Imagine if you're up on the stage and you're talking. All you have to do is at some point in time in your talk, I do this right now. I was just out in Boston doing a keynote at Payments Ed Forum. There's about 800 people in the audience. I put my QR code up on the screen. All the people in the audience turned their camera on, held up their phone, and boom, the Openless app popped up. And guess what? All the people that did that, I collected all of their credentials just like that, instantaneously. So this is where you can start building a massive list, and then you can go in and you can go ahead and educate and you can nurture them. You could do push notifications with a 90 to 95% open rate to bring them back. You don't need text message marketing. You don't have to pay for text message marketing. Our QR code technology is part of the Openless app. It's free. So this is where it makes it so much different. And then we still have chat, and we still have these animated characters we talked about with you, Robert. They pop up if there's questions people have. They can ask questions, and then they can get answers inside the Openless app. Or if they have a particular question about a particular mentorship program, coaching program, or a book, it can on demand pull that into the Openless app and present that to the client. I mean, think about it this way for book authors. Imagine if you were up on Amazon and you had your QR code with your logo and it was right on your book cover, and you had a little instruction to say, go ahead and just open your camera and scan the code, and up pops, let's say, Robert, you're the author. Up pops you're the animated character or the real person. You start talking to them about your book. It's totally interactive, see? And not only that, but you can pull all kinds of traffic for free off of Amazon. So this is where things are going and what you need to do, because right now, here's what's happening in the world. I just looked up the industry stats on this. Let's say you're going out and you're doing some form of advertising or blog post or social media, and you tap on a link, take them to your website. HubSpot just came out not too long ago, several months ago, that over 55% of people spend less than 15 seconds on a website. So you have that against you, first of all. Then you're going to go ahead and do a popover and collect an email address. Do you know the industry average now on opt-ins is 2%? So even if you get an email, now you're taking them to email. The industry average on email is 20% open rate and 1 to 2% click-through rate. So you guys start doing the math. It's not working out too well for you anymore. This is why it's all about quantity over quality, because you have to have such a massive list because these things aren't working like they used to. Versus if you bring them instantly into the Openless app and it's interactive, you're doing push notification, and at least over 80% are coming back in versus 20% on email. You see, the numbers are staggering compared to what you're going to get with what you are doing today. This is the big elephant in the room I talk about, Robert. These things, they just don't work as good as they did before. And people are going, well, I don't know what else to do different. So that's why we came up with this, because people are on a small screen experience now, and the customer has already voted. They want to discover on their own. They want to message and nurture and interact. They want to choose their own journey, and then they'll be ready to buy. And this is not something in the future. This is something people are already doing. If you guys don't believe me, when you get unwanted calls, what do? You don't answer them because you have caller ID. You can shut salespeople out. You can shut the world out all on your phone these days.
Right. Yeah. And who wants to keep hanging on to those old things that don't work? Who wants to fight for 1% of 2%, not even 1% on its own, but like just the tiniest little fraction? And yeah, there are so many times when I'm on my phone and I'm on a website and there's a pop-up, and sometimes even I might even be interested in getting on the person's list, but I'm like, I don't want to have to type my whole email address on the tiny phone screen. That's kind of cumbersome. And so, okay, so is there a way an easy way people can follow along here? Like if there's one of these Openless apps, like you said that you were at an event and people scanned a QR code, is there an easy way, like for someone right now to type something in on your phone and start using one of these apps? Because on one hand, and also one thing that I'm sort of a little confused on is if there's a QR code and I'm on an iPhone, I'm not on a Droid, there's no built-in way to scan and go someplace, right?
Say that again, the question?
So I guess there's two questions. I guess the first question to get to is there an easy way for people to go to one of these Openless apps right now?
Okay, yes, there is. If you want to go out to, you could go out to openlessapp.com/speaking. You'll see I have a speakers page there, and there's a lot of really good information, guys. You'll see me from stage in very quick videos talking about what Robert and I are talking about here today. But if you go up to the Openless app and click on that, you'll see a big QR code there on the page. Just go ahead and tap on your camera and hold it over, and the Openless app will pop up. So that is one place you can go and play around with one of these Openless apps.
Okay, so openlessapp.com/speaking. All right, and then that leads me to sort of the next thing here is, so I'm on an iPhone, and there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there any way to scan a QR code natively on an iPhone without installing some other?
Yeah, app? There is. The iOS now, unless you have a really old, like an iPhone 4, iPhone 5, but the later iPhones, and I think it's iOS 10 and above, which most people have, all you have to do, Robert, is tap on your camera icon on your phone and hold the camera over the QR code, and our Openless app will pop up. I mean, think about it this way. Going back to the coaches speakers application, right? So let's say you are doing some kind of marketing. It could be a URL they tap on, or it could be a QR code, but you want them to come in and register for your event. So you're going to talk to them about, okay, well, here's what the event's about. We do, the promo and the videos and things like that inside the Openless app. Then they can go ahead and they can tap on a button and register for your event. And then with push notification, we can remind them 2 days before. We can remind them the day of. Now, here's where it gets really cool, Robert. And we did this for one of the Shark Tank individuals who speak around the country. On the day of, we can even send them a push notification going, hey, it's time for Robert's talk at so-and-so conference center. It's going to be about 45 minutes of traffic because we know the longitude and latitude of the phone. Would you like to get driving directions? If they tap yes, boom, we can provide them audible step-by-step driving directions. You don't need to go to Waze. You don't need to go to Google Maps anymore. Everything is inside the app, inside the hub.
Well, awesome. Okay, so so I was just doing this as you were talking here. So I went to openlessapp.com/speaking, and then on the top right corner there was Openless app.
Yep.
I opened up my camera and then pointed it at the QR code, and then a pop-up or a notification appeared saying, okay, now do you want to open this in Safari? And that's pretty cool because I didn't even know that was a feature. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that you could use your camera app to do it. That's one of those kind of hidden sort of things. And so now I'm on a website on my phone, and I can type in a message. And so how does this then translate to the opting in, or how you mentioned like you can do like the driving directions or things? How do you get people to go from this browser to an app?
Well, so a couple things now. So if you were to come into that or get push notifications and come back into it a time or two, there'll be a screen that pops up. That's part of the iOS or the Android system that says, would you like to add this to your home screen? And if you tap yes, it will automatically add it to your home screen. So it appears like it's a native phone app, but it's not. It's a web app, but it has all the features and functionality of a native phone app. So this is how you can live as a phone app on a person's phone without having to go to iTunes or Google Play. By the way, all of the app updates are done in the background automatically. You do not have to go back to iTunes or Google Play to update and reinstall your apps for the updates. So again, taking all the friction out of this, right? Now it depends on what the application is. So if that was a speaking application, the one you're in is just a general introductory Openless app. But if you were in a coach's speakers application, that's where you would see going through a particular sequence. It's almost like a sales funnel, where you're presenting your talk. You may be doing a little speaker's reel video. You're having them sign up for the event, and then you can do the push notifications. What we typically do with all of our clients is we'll have a screen at the front end, Robert, which is a login screen. So it's a one-tap login with Facebook or one-tap login with Google. And when they do that, it instantly pulls their credentials from Facebook or Google and downloads it to the backend database of the Openless app. And it will know who you are, and it will greet you by your first name. It will say, hey, Robert, how's it going?
Super cool. And as you're explaining all this functionality, I mean, if someone were to hire someone to make an app from scratch, I mean, who knows how many thousands that would take. And then you'd be stuck with that same old problem of trying to say, well, go to the App Store and type this in, and don't go to this one or that one, but go to the third one down and hit the button and wait for it to load and download. And the iTunes might pop up and say, re-enter your password, and then go back to your home screen and find the icon where it was. It seems like a way more seamless experience there to say, scan the QR code, it opens that thing in your browser, then it can add that thing to your home screen, and then have all that functionality. And so as you're kind of explaining a lot of this, it makes you wonder, well, how self-service or how hands-on is it? Like, say a speaker comes to you and your company and says, I want to make one of these Openless apps. Is it a matter of, is there an interface where they can play around and build something, or do they have to say, here are my requirements, your team builds the app for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at this particular time, we build for, we're not necessarily an agency, we're more of a vertical. So we are in the coaches speakers vertical, where they would come in, they'd say, okay, I would like to have this Openless app for myself. So we would go through a process. We have a content sheet they would fill out. They provide that to us in about 3 to 5 days. Then they have their Openless app built, and it's usable for them. We're going to be doing some things in the future, and I'll probably come back on Robert's show, which will be something that will automate this for you guys, and that's in development right now. But at this particular stage, because it's brand new technology, this is a differentiator play. If you're an early adopter, if you want differentiation in your company, then we want to talk to you. Because if you wait until, the Main Streeters, if you wait until everybody else has this, well, guess what? Everybody else has it, and it's not going to be so much of a differentiator anymore. It's kind of like WordPress, right? Everybody uses WordPress now. It's not really a differentiator, and all websites look the same. And by the way, that's part of the problem. Google has forced us to all look the same. Rob Locascio, who's a thought leader in the e-commerce industry, just came out in TechCrunch and said in 2018 there is going to be a large brand that's going to pull down their website because they don't want to look like everyone else, and they're going to make changes. This is all stuff, guys. It's Robert, have you ever heard of the boiling frog story?
Yeah, how if you boil the pot slowly, the frog won't notice. If you boil the pot quickly, the frog will notice. And usually we don't notice how things are slowly creeping up on us, and we're just getting boiled alive.
Man, you are astute. You got it. And I talk about the boiling frog analogy. So all you guys that are listening, you're the frog. The technology around you that's changing here is the water temperature that's rising. And pretty soon, if you do not make these changes, kind of like what Robert said with responsive, when he finally got the aha, like, ooh, I need to change this. There are things that are happening. Your customer has already voted on this. This is not the future. This is now. They want to discover. They want to choose their own journey. They don't want to have stuff shoved down their throat. They want to ask questions and do messaging. Half the country right now, for everybody listening, and Robert as well, is either millennial or Gen Z. These guys, they don't talk on the phone. They message. In fact, they don't listen to voicemail because they don't want to. So the world has changed. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you some examples. You guys ever heard of a couple large companies called Blockbuster and Hollywood Video? There was this disruptor company called Netflix. Well, where are those guys? Look at Amazon, and then look at Sears, JCPenney, Kmart. You guys got a Kmart in your neighborhood now? Not too many around anymore. And this is not just for big conglomerates. This is for small businesses alike. If you don't start looking at this and making changes, you will be that boiled frog in the water, and you'll get boiled alive.
Frightening stuff. So we can't ignore these things that are coming up on us. We need to embrace that change and not resist it, like a Blockbuster, which had a perfectly good opportunity to buy Netflix, and didn't at some point, like Yahoo had the opportunity to buy Microsoft, and I think it went the other way around eventually because one overtook the other. I mean, so many times when person A, who was established and fat and happy and comfortable, could have bought person B that was an up and comer and still hadn't proved themselves, and then person B just totally overtook them. So when we're talking about some business of some kind coming to you to create these openless apps, you say you can get it done in 3 to 5 days after they fill in those requirements. What's sort of the price range, or is it all over the place? And is it a one-time or monthly fee, or how do you lay that out?
Yeah, so it's based on the vertical, and it's a monthly fee. And I do want to mention for all of your listeners too, we've formed a strategic partnership with a company. We now have the ability, if you're a B2B, we can automatically generate connections and messages on LinkedIn for you. This company has an automated system with artificial intelligence. So we have a front-end system to drive multiple leads to your LinkedIn account every single week. And then they will come into the Openless app. We do the nurturing and conversion. And we also have the ability to set up appointments automatically inside the Openless app. So now we have a one-stop solution as a lead generation and lead conversion machine for any B2B business out there.
Well, fantastic. So it sounds like you guys are dialed in and on the cutting edge. So if those businesses out there want to just focus on what they do great and leave the tech stuff to you, it sounds like it's a really logical choice to go to you and your team and look into these openless apps. So as we're winding down, wrapping up here, do you think there's anything that's really important about these openless apps that people need to know about that you think we haven't covered yet?
The only other thing I would say, Robert, really is, the world has already changed. I talk about this all the time. If you even go to a situation like, if any of you guys think back, Robert, have you bought a new car in the last 5 or 10 years?
About 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, typically, right, here's another one that's going to get disrupted. So think about this. And this is the reason why I bring this up, is this is the way people are behaving today. So you probably went to a car dealership, and a lot of times you go to a car dealership and there's like 3 to 5 guys out there standing, and you're thinking, what?
They're going to come and be sleazy and sell me on something.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh. And you're probably going to keep driving. I get this all the time when I do my keynotes across the country. See, this is a problem. And so guess what? That's why we have Carvana, TrueCar, the Fair App experience. You can go in, search for your car. You can fill out the lease papers, get approved, have the car delivered to your door. And 2 months later, if you don't like it, you can send that car away and they'll deliver another one to your door. You see, the whole world now is being run on these phones, and people have control. They don't want to be sold. They want to discover. They want to choose their own journey, just like people that play video games. I mean, a lot of the millennials and Gen Zs, They're video game players. They'll maybe do Zelda and go off into different lands. This is the way, technology has conditioned people, Robert, to want to search. When we want to find something, we Google it. We don't Yahoo it. We don't Bing it. We Google it. Just like Kleenex is the tissue, Google is the search. We want a message. We want to ask questions. We don't want to be sold. We want everything at arm's length until we are ready to buy. But at the same time, we want our life easier. Our Openless apps can provide reminders. We are in home services where wouldn't it be nice if you had reminder services on, well, change your furnace filter. You need to drain your water heater. It's time to clean your gutters. These are all things that our technology can do to make people's lives better and easier.
Yeah, I mean, you're not kidding. Things are super, super crazy, super different. And yeah, so we don't have to go through, people don't have to go through all that rigmarole that they thought they always had to, like with the car buying or even like Taco Bell nowadays. I saw they deliver it with an app. That's craziness, right? So I mean, yeah. So things are definitely changing, and I love that final idea you threw in there of if you're some kind of a service-based business or in some kind of business where things need to be done on a regular basis, drain the water heater, change the furnace filter, shampoo the carpets, do whatever, to have these apps and have these notifications. So that way, number one, people have decided to go out and be sold by you, and it's a way smoother transaction because they know what they want. And then number two, once you do make that sale, those reminders, those upsells, those things are actually helpful, not just the old way of marketing, which was, here's a 50% discount, here's a promotion. It's like, no, now it's customized for you. You got this water heater serviced a year ago. Now it's time for the next thing. So yeah, so lots of crazy things for us to think about, but crazy in a good way. As you said, the world has already changed. So where the heck can and where the heck should people go to jump on board with these Openless apps?
Well, you can go to if you want to go to openlessapp.com/speaking, you'll see me from stage. I'm talking about what Robert and I just were discussing here, or you can go to openlessapp.com if you want to check. We don't really have, it's an Openless app. It's not a website. We don't do websites because websites are archaic. So that if you want to check us out, you can go to either one of those two places. If you want to learn a little bit more about what this is all about and kind of get your mind wrapped around a little bit more, go to openlessapp.com/speaking, and you'll hear me talking about them up there.
All right, fantastic. So we'll see you at both those locations. That is openlessapp.com/speaking to see what it's all about, and then openlessapp.com to take the next step. I mean, don't be in the next 5 or 10 years, don't be one of those last few remaining businesses with a website and without an app. Be ahead of the curve. And if it's heading in this direction, then don't wait until it's too late, or don't wait until you have to play catch up. Get on this now. Check out those Openless apps. That's openlessapp.com/speaking and openlessapp.com. And thanks so much, Peter, for making that return visit and for telling us what we need to know about being on the cutting edge with these Openless apps. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Robert. I really appreciate you having me back on the show. It was a lot of fun. Had a good time.
Awesome. We'll see you in a couple months.
All right.
Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes and like us on Facebook at marketeroftheday.com/Facebook.